Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate you coming on back for this Thursday night show. Dr. Allen Greenfield. We're going to get into UFOs, the ultra-terrestrials, the occult, the man, the myth, the legend from the secret cipher of the Ufonauts is here. Before we bring him on in, let us say hello to all of you in the chat room so far. Race fan in the gold medal position. We got Luscious Jules with the silver, Roy Boy with the bronze. Hi, Jessica. Monica, Laura Lobbs, and Lisa C. How are you? Area 51, nice to have you here. And Les Paul Holland, strum a little ditty for us if you don't mind. Allison Singh and Simon, good to see you both. Hey, D. Cohen. Jeff, Steve Garvey, and Kathy Evans, nice to have you here. Sweet Donna Spencer and Stephanie Kenny Blankenship. David Paulson, nice to have you here. David Paulson will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Kurt M. and Human Carl. How you doing? Human Carl, a great veteran of the United States Air Force. Thank you for your service, my friend. MT, thank you for joining us. Kim Stanley, Zed Hutt, Pixie Lara. Number 41 in your program, starting in goal from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. Good to see you. Digger Dog, Mama Susan, thank you for coming on in. Hi, W. David Page. And to Mothman, Chillgasm, good to see you all. Continuing with roll call, Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Well, let's see, where are we here? There's Obi Flett. How's the suntan coming, my man? Asteroid, how you doing? Linda Thompson, thank you, lovely Linda, for a great phone call earlier. And thank you for this wonderful super chat kicking off things tonight. Very much appreciate your love and support. The super chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Hi, Sandra Kincaid. How are you? And Pink Volo. Ozzy, oi, oi to you. Gizmo and Paramarv. Polaris Sucks will be signing autographs after the show as well. Light up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Worsley, Kevin, and Izzy, Stradlin, Beth. How you doing? Paul UK, good morning to you. Major Lee, yes, I did get what you meant last night, my man. After you reset it, I reread it, and yeah, that was my fault. My fault, buddy. So but it led to great conversation, though, dude. So thank you for that. You get credit for that. Christine Lynn, how are you? And Peppa H, good to see you. Zoria, thank you for coming on in as we continue on with our roll call tonight. Video Game Zombie, how are you? And let's scroll on down. There's Science Melinda from Australia. Chris. Teen, how are you? And Stargazer, good to see you all. Moving on. Roger Murray, good to see you. And Justin Hemmingson, thank you for coming on in. And who else do we have? Flying Monkeys, good to see you. Robert Lamoth again. Michael Fontaine, where you been hiding? It's been a few days. Penny Van, and yeah, I think we're caught up right now. Let's get the radio side started here because we need to get Bill WD40 into the chat room so he can lube us up for tonight's show. Love V Love, CS, how are you two beautiful ladies tonight? And we got just under 1 minute here before we're going to run. Matthew Goodka, thank you for joining us. Yeah, if you haven't hit subscribe and rang that bell yet, please do so. It really helps with our algorithms. It helps this channel grow. Follow us on social media. You know, if you're not following us on Twitter or Instagram, you need to be. At Dave Scott SOR is my personal ones, at Spaced Out Radio, and at Spaced Out Radio Show on Instagram. Make sure you do that. The store is open on our website, spacedoutradio.com. So make sure you check that on out and make life a little easier for you in following what we do on a nightly basis. So, yes, Christine Lynn, how are you? And I think we're almost ready to do this thing. I'm almost ready. I think Alan's ready. His hair looks fantastic tonight, by the way. It really does. We got like 9 seconds left. We're going to rock this place up. So I need a favor from all of you. Get your horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us, will you, at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a power show of insane knowledge tonight. Author, researcher, occultist Allen Greenfield will be here momentarily to check things out, give us an update, what's happening between the UFOs and the major woo of the world. Then in hour number 3, Steve Stockton brings us another story from among the missing. Shane Michael Crisp will have the Cryptid report. It's Dave 101 night. You know where I'm going with that, damn NASA. And we'll have the weird news of the week as well. Allen Greenfield, also known by his his other name, Tau Sir Hasirim, is an American occultist and writer and bishop of the Gnostic Catholic Church who lives in Atlanta, Georgia. His book, Secret Cipher of the Ufonauts, a very strange book even for the UFO field, discusses UFOs in terms derived from Carl Jung, according to Robert Anton Wilson. He's got another book, The Story of the Hermetic Brotherhood of Light, includes discussion of the Hermetic Brotherhood of Light versus Helena Blavatsky's Brotherhood of Luxor, but is, according to a reviewer in Aries, to be used with care. He is a man, a myth, and a legend. And apparently I'm so excited I can barely speak because it's been a long time since we had our good friend Allen Greenfield on the show. Allen, thank you so much. It looks like you're wearing a pair of pajamas stolen from Hugh Hefner there, my friend.
No, it's a Hawaiian shirt.
Oh, it looks
of course,
beautiful.
I get them straight from Honolulu, but I notice on the tag, like everything else, it says made in China.
Of course it does. Of course it does.
I collect katanas, which you would think would come from Japan, but there's the little label, made in China. I guess they farm it out now. So,
you know what's really weird is when I go buy my son hockey gear. Everybody associates hockey with what? Canada. I'm Canadian. Yep. Okay. Where is his hockey gear made? Vietnam.
Vietnam, yes.
Vietnam. I didn't know they even knew what a hockey puck was, let alone shoulder pads or skates or whatever.
I don't think they have. Well, there used to be, the Calgary Flames used to be here in Atlanta, Georgia, which was, people said, well, what's that? Is that like field hockey? And no, it wasn't, but it didn't go over too well here because it's never cold enough for anybody to go around on the ice. People have, rollerblades, but just wasn't an Atlanta sort of thing. Calgary's gain, our loss.
That's all right, my friend. How you been doing? What's new? You always got lots of strange things happening around you.
Yeah, more so for the last several months than for some time. I mean, I always have these synchronicities that occur when I read certain things or I look into something, then the synchronicities happen within moments. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if a synchronicity happened while we're on the air. I mean, it just happens all the time. Of course, if you look for them, they don't happen. It's when you're not looking for them that they happen. But way back when I wrote the original edition published by the late and lamented Illuminate Press of Secret Cipher, the Ufonauts, now under other auspices, since Illuminate was eliminated by the powers of darkness. And I mean really eliminated, like Jim Keith, dead. Ron Bonds, the publisher, dead. Kerry Thornley, friend of mine, dead. All authors for the same publisher. But when it came back into print, the sequel book, Secret Rituals of the Men in Black, was published separately 10 years later, and there's a whole story why it was 10 years later. It wasn't because it couldn't get published. It had been bought, and I had to buy it back because I was in trouble with the secret society I was then a member of. And until I got out of the secret society that I was then a member of, I was hesitant to publish it, as I had been more or less threatened by the grand poobah of said society. But anyway, so they're now available under one cover called The Complete Secret Cipher of the Ufonauts, which is very worth your while to get under one cover, except now it was always meant to be a trilogy. And we're hard at work, me and the publishers, on what amounts to the third volume in the Secret Cipher trilogy, tentatively called, I don't get to name the books, that's the publisher's in, but it's The Secrets of the Real Black Lodge Exposed. And my interest in that goes back to the 1980s, when I was told by one in authority, well, we don't discuss the Black Lodge anymore, which of course, ding, 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 that's very important. The Black Lodge is an old occult concept of very, very high level magicians who take, for borrowing from George Lucas, forgive me, the dark side of the force, and who operate at a very high level, but for very negative reasons. They're responsible for many of the Men in Black cases and some of the silencing. They used to be called the Silence Group by my late friend Gray Barker. And when we decided to do this book, stuff started to happen. So we have moved along and are almost ready to bring that out. So that's where we are at this point. Now, my publisher has had more flack over this so far. I mean, the ceiling could fall in while we're talking, but generally speaking, I get the synchronicities. He is hard at work on the finished product right now. And also he has a website for the, one might say, the lawful successor of the Hermetic Brotherhood of Light, called the Celestial Lodge of Sirius. It's his project, not mine, although I do endorse it. And The site yesterday disappeared completely. I'm probably fracturing the story a bit because I just heard it like at the wee hours of this morning. But so his site was gone, and being a techie, which I'm not, he had it backed up on in the cloud in a couple of different places, all gone. And the manuscript for the book we're about to publish on the Black Lodge had disappeared from all media. So he was frantic. He didn't call me right away, but he kept trying. And then just as mysteriously, it reappeared sometimes around dawn today. So it's not totally incorrect to say the Black Lodge absconded with it, or the guys in St. Petersburg, Russia, not in Florida, and the secret chiefs of the Third Order restored it. So the battle goes on, and that's the way it's been with occult and UFO circles, which I think are the same thing, although I used to get lots of flack on saying that, but not as much anymore. It's like a lot of people have come around to para-ufology instead of just, ufology.
I got to tell you, I mean, I know your publisher very well in Olaf Phillips, and he is a good friend of mine. And for a big man, he is a very gentle soul, and we have had our own synchronicities. I don't know if you remember me showing the diamond with the horns on it. That was caused by Olaf in a 3:33 a.m. phone call that was never recorded on his phone. But he called me twice on that night, and I called him back. He never answered. And the third time his phone called me at 3:34 a.m., it went doot, doot, doot. And then I got hit with this symbol of a diamond with horns on it. And it was all different colors: orange, red, green, blue, yellow, purple, gray, black, brown. Every color you could think of was going through my head. And as soon as I started questioning, Alan, what does this mean? What does this mean? Like, I want more. I'm focused on it. Like, it woke me up. These colors were going, and I was like, come on, feed it to me. I am ready. And it just faded away and disappeared, and I could not get it back. And then the next morning, so I called Olaf and left him a voicemail that night, said, hey, man, is everything okay? Call me. He called me about 1 o'clock the next afternoon, and he says to me, Dave, I didn't call you. I said, what do you mean you didn't call me? I said, dude, you called me 3 times. He's like, no, you're not understanding. There is no record on my phone of calling you at 3:33 in the morning. And when I sent him a screenshot that it was his phone that called me, that's when we got the old Allen Greenfield involved to try and figure out what the heck was going on here. And we've had a few instances like that, Alan.
Yeah, I remember we had a 3-way phone call, and I was suggesting a few things that you might do in case there was a paranormal factor in this to get rid of whatever it was. Of course, that doesn't get rid of things that are, shall we say, material in nature, like Havana syndrome or whatever. But by the way, when I was looking at your horn with a double horn with a line down, have you still got it handy there so people will? If you look at the headwear of Egyptian deities and pharaohs, especially the female, the goddesses, they have a very similar thing on top of their head with the 2 horns and a pole coming down from it. And I think that may not be totally coincidental. Now, that could be a good sign or a bad sign, depends on which goddess we're talking about. And of course, I'm not talking about gods or goddesses. I'm talking about symbols and representations that may come from the Black Lodge, or it may come from, hopefully, the secret chiefs trying to get through to you. But I think you were a little concerned that there was something in your backyard. Am I talking out of school here? So I was thinking, this man needs an Orgone energy gun, because that is probably the only thing that really scares these things off, because that's what Reich developed the original Orgone gun for in the 1950s, got him put in prison for the rest of his life, not very long. But that seems to be one of the few things in the semi-material world that actually can do something to these denizens of otherwhere, as I like to put it. Magonia, as Valet puts it.
Well, when you do have some aliens, you do have to, cater to them a little bit. And when you got aliens running around and remote viewers running around, as one remote viewer, astral traveler, came to my house one day and was reporting live to me on the phone. He said, "Holy cow, Dave." He goes, "Your house is like a Kmart blue light special for the weird and strange." He goes, "It's everywhere on your property." And I said, "Yep, welcome to my world." And we had a good laugh over that. But Alan, for many people out there, they don't know how to tell what is visiting them, whether it's ghosts, whether it's orbs, whether it's UFOs and aliens. They don't know how to tell whether it's good or bad. They can't remember the experience, or maybe they just remember terrifying moments. How does one tell whether or not any type of encounter is positive or negative?
Well, common sense has a great deal to do with it. If it feels good, it probably is. If it feels really dreadful, it probably is really dreadful, and you should learn something like the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, or get yourself an Orgone energy gun, which doesn't shoot bullets. It shoots energy that apparently the bad ones don't like. However, common sense can lead you wrong, and because some of the negative forces that are out there put on a seductive, and sometimes it's quite literally seductive, front in order to be able to get the attention. I don't know how many trance channels I've talked to who say, "Oh yes, I'm talking to the Archangel Metatron." And I say, well, what is Metatron telling you to do? If Metatron is telling you can fly now, so go to find the nearest cliff and take a jump, I would say it's probably not an archangel, at least not one that you want to trust. Maybe a fallen archangel, sort of like I'm sure some of your listeners know about Ashtar and Ashtar Command, but if they knew the history of that, they might not want to communicate with it, because Ashtar is a classical demon. All of the medieval grimoires talk about Ashtar as a demon, and if you go back far enough, you're talking about Ashtaroth, the Ashtaroth in the Semitic languages, the Middle East, in Assyrian or Babylonian, or even back to Sumerian, which is a long, long time ago, like 6,000 years. This is an evil demon that does really, really bad things if it's in your life. And so if it self-identifies as Ashtar, I would say, don't believe anything that it's saying, stay away from it. Again, it's, if you know your stuff, you can deal with these things. But if you don't, and it just, the ghost is in the kitchen going, woo, well, that's neutral. If it comes out of the kitchen and scares the living daylights out of you, like that's what it's there to do, take that as a negative thing and get thee an exorcist, which I happen to be one of. So, and these things Crazy Russian dictators I worry about. Scary spirits, I've been around them too long. They don't scare me at all, and I know how to drive them out. Although I'm not taking that as a challenge, because there certainly is a hierarchy that goes beyond my abilities. I am not a secret chief. I am only an egg, as Valentine Michael Smith said to Heinlein.
I want to ask you, because one of the times where Olive and I called you up was when I had some remote viewers viewing on in of extraterrestrial descent. And they were, remember the lady who kept on saying, "You can't see me. You can't see me." Are aliens or extraterrestrials, ultra terrestrials, whatever it may be, remote viewing in on us all the time?
I don't know when you say us, if you mean people who are active in this, absolutely. Yeah, all the time. And someone who has a permanent forum as you do, more so. With me, I bounce around. Everybody says, "Why don't you have a podcast?" I said, well, first of all, I'm better at giving answers than asking questions. But secondly, by bouncing around from one to another, to another, to another, according to who invites me or doesn't, it is a little bit more diffuse with me. But still, yeah, me. But my neighbors over across the street who are uninterested in all these things, they might have something in the way of a one-time encounter, like a ghostly thing. Or if they saw a UFO and the men in black show up at the door, that could be two entirely different things. One mimics the others. Which is which, I don't know. The government agents that came out of the really weird notion from the 1950s that our communists were going to infiltrate flying saucer organizations and whatever they were supposed to be doing. I don't know. But so some of the men in black cases were to scare the bejesus out of witnesses. But some of them have supernatural aspects. John Keel, who I knew quite well, investigated a case in Cape May, New Jersey. And these witnesses were visited by a single man in black. I mean, there's hardly any other way to describe him. But he was clearly what the Tibetans call a tulpa. He was not a material human being. He looked like it, but while he was in these people's residence, asking them the same kind of questions that MUFON or whoever would ask them, he seemed to get agitated, like he couldn't breathe very well, and he started to dissolve. So he made a hasty departure. These people lived in a relatively remote area, and he went out of their door like he was in a hurry, and they followed to see where he was going and what kind of car he was getting. There was no car there, and there was no guy there. Those are the indications that you're dealing with a tulpa. That is something that somewhere, someone, or something else is projecting it, and its material existence only lasts as long as the sender is able to do it. It's a lot like radio waves. And I mean, I don't think that that's what it is, but it's somewhere in the ultraviolet or infrared out there at the end of the electromagnetic spectrum. And these things can show up or not show up in ordinary people's lives at random moments. Dr. Persinger in Toronto was big on the notion that when there are disruptions of the electromagnetic, I hear that noise.
Hey, let's continue this. Allen Greenfield, when we return, Ufonauts and the Occult with Dr. Allen Greenfield, the man, the myth, and the legend on Spaced Out Radio right after this. Stay tuned. All right, we're clear. Just so you know, our YouTube audience and our podcast audience can hear us. Our radio side cannot. Let's say hello to Shelly, who just came in. And Edna, nice to see you. Hi, Joey Zed. Pissing me off, Evan Walters. Thank you for that. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. She always wants it. You know these people who are into codes and everything 3 times. Yeah. Let's see. Trace B, the Arrow. Nice to see you both. The lovely and talented Mama Catherine. Mwah. She's from Atlanta, too. Mama Catherine is from Atlanta. So,
hi, I'm in Northwest Atlanta. Glad to see you.
Oh, I love her. She came to our fan party in Las Vegas a couple weeks ago with her son, Charlie, and just 2 of the most beautiful people I've ever met. Really amazing people.
Excellent.
And, yeah. Love them dearly. Love them dearly. And so I promised her that as soon as I see her in the chat room, I would throw her a big kiss to say hello. And so I got to hold up on that. You know how it is.
I know how it is.
Absolutely. Hi, Nina Williams. How you doing? Jeremy Drones. No, we haven't talked about NASA and the occult yet. That is part of the plan tonight. And thank you, Mama Catherine. And let's see who else has jumped on in here. Catherine says, "Hey, Dr. Allen, let's have lunch." Oh, you would love her. You would love her and her son. Brilliant, brilliant minds. Brilliant minds.
Well, I'm here on the Northwest side, and you can probably in the show notes get my email address, and I'll be glad to talk to you and see if we can work that out. If you're buying, I'm eating.
Awesome. The Unknown, how you doing? Yeah. Where's Olaf Phillips hiding? Olaf, are you listening? I know he's listening somewhere. Love him. Love him. So, yeah, I'm about to, my next tattoo adventure. I'm going to get that put on. I still don't know what it means. Haven't figured it out.
Look at pictures of the Egyptian goddess Hathor to her headpiece and see if maybe there's something there that's familiar.
Let's take a look at her. Besides making me want to walk like an Egyptian. Oh, my.
You see the similarity? I mean, I'm not looking at what you're looking at, but I've seen.
I'll show you here. Hold on. Yeah, I am seeing the similarity.
Yep, there's exactly what I was trying to point out. Of course, the circle in the middle is solar symbolism, and that's a big part in our new book. That's a big, big part. The obsession with certain parts of the Black Lodge with solar symbols, or even Black Lodge death cults get involved in solar symbolism, along with some very reputable scientists. And of course, the horns, Hathor, before they had a female human form, was the cow goddess. And just as even today in India, the cow is sacred, thus the name sacred cow. In ancient Egypt, the cows were sacred, and in fact, they mummified them and buried them. Entombed them.
Right. Right. By the way, Catherine says, let's go to Mary Mac's.
Oh, that's a delightful place. I'm a vegan, but they have a great vegetable plate there, so maybe so.
And we got about 40 seconds here.
I think that's pretty remarkable that you didn't have any foreknowledge of where that symbol would be, but when you showed it, I immediately thought of the headpiece that Hathor wears. And again, that counts as a synchronicity because the sun emblem in the middle which is where you have the bar, is the hidden sun of
in
yeah.
blue. In blue.
Yeah.
All right, we got 15 seconds. Thank you, Linda, Deb, Cat Chaser, Simon, Not of This Earth, and Catherine for the amazing super chats and love. Thank you. Give us a thumbs up, thumbs down if you haven't. Here comes the next half hour. Second half hour, Spaced Out Radio is underway. Good to have you with us. Dr. Allen Greenfield is our guest tonight. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Dr. Allen Greenfield is our guest tonight on the show. We're getting into UFOs, aliens, the occult, and so much more. Dr. Greenfield, thank you so much for being here as you work on the third book of the Secret Cipher of the Ufonauts trilogy. It's good to have you here. And we talk a lot about synchronicities and paths that we are supposed to follow. Most people are very, very obtuse when it comes to actually following that path. Why is it important for us to follow what those around us put out there for us to see as little mysteries and clues?
Well, because some of those mysteries are vital to the future of the human race. And why they're put out in drabs and driblets or dribs and drablets, or it's sort of like sending the right weapons to Ukraine. They come in driblets, and they really should either roll them out or not. And it's a clue as to how important this is, that you don't get one disclosure event, as I tell the disclosure people who say, "Oh, Greenfield doesn't know what he said." Yes, I do know what I'm talking about. And I think the limitation of the knowledge of the powers that be is the greatest secret of all. They know that there's lots that they don't have an explanation for. I think they try legitimately to protect, new weapons developments, DARPA and other agencies. That's their real concern. But in terms of understanding the nature of the phenomena, plural, from apparitions to religious miracles to flying saucers to alien abductions, to the whole range of phenomena that I think are one spectrum. The only clue that you have comes from people who do have a certain amount of psychic talents. Particularly, you were mentioning distant scryers, and they have some little insight, but the fact is that our regular five senses, I think, are incapable of actually resolving these phenomena into what they really are. They come from Magonia, fairyland, otherwhere, other dimensions, or as the physicists that are advocates of the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, without getting too far into the weeds on that, they call brains, not brains, as I think I've got one in there. It's hollow. Hollow. That's amazing. Amazing that I can keep talking. But they're talking about membranes, branes, and there's nothing in the evolution of the human race in general that prepares us to either see or hear or taste or touch, or, which sense am I leaving? The point is, we developed just a minute time ago to be able to find prey and eat, but not get eaten by predators. That's what we have the senses that we do for, and hopefully reproduce and continue to be a race of beings. But we're ill prepared for things that come from totally different realities, totally different membranes, of which there may be a fixed number or there may be an infinite number. And my favorite are the reports where you have a Bigfoot coming out of a flying saucer. What does that say? It says they're the same phenomena in a different form, and you're probably not seeing the whole thing. I think Whitley Strieber came closest with his notion of the endless number of masks that these alien beings, I think there are a lot more, let me put it this way, there are a lot more alien than we realize. We think in terms of, maybe they're from a planet circling Alpha Centauri, which is not totally implausible if there is a livable planet around Alpha Centauri. It's, I think, 4 light years away, and that's a long distance, but that's the closest. And if they're more advanced than us, they could get here in 4.5 years, 5 years, even establish a base on Neptune or something. But I don't think that's where they're coming from. I think they're coming from parallel realities that are right here. I base that in part on things that I knew before. I was fully aware of the implications of quantum mechanics and the existence of other realms, other dimensions. But once I became aware of that, I thought, well, they're always seen on or near the Earth. It's not like the Mars rovers keep running into alien beings, or the lunar probes, or even the probe that we have now circling the sun and watching the solar flares increase all the time, which is something that should be more of a matter of concern than it is. But it also produces temporarily the ability to see some of the things that we don't ordinarily see. So active solar storms, you can expect really weird events to happen. Does that answer your question or not?
Sure it does. Sure it does. If it sounds like I'm pausing, it's because you're so deep in your answers that it takes my minuscule brain time to actually try and translate that. And I won't stop the translation till, at least the weekend now.
Mm-hmm.
So I blame you for that. I really do. The idea that many of us are having downloads, we're having interactions with strange creatures, UFO beings, alien beings, little people, whatever it may be. You talk about the phenomena being everywhere. Yet there are many people out there who are just starting to learn the phenomena and understand that the phenomena really is everything. It's everything around us, and everything seems to be interconnected. Why have we been so long to try and understand that the phenomena is all of one?
At one time, I was dumbfounded by that fact, because I had a foot in the occult world and a foot in ufology from, I don't even like to say how many years, but let's say approximately half a century. And to me, they were part of a spectrum because I got interested in them at the same time and I could see points in common. But what I found when I introduced that to other people, there were a couple of exceptions. Valet is biggest exception to that. We're dealing with turf wars. Ufologists see themselves as a club of sorts or a tribe. And we live in very, very tribal times. I don't know if that's as pronounced in Canada as it is in the United States, but this is the most tribal the United States has been since the Civil War in the 1860s. And it applies all across the board. Scientists who get quantum theory are very different from those who are resistant to it and that are part of PsyCop or, some other, I don't like to call them skeptics because they aren't. They're propagandists for an utterly materialistic point of view. And that is really, really dated scientifically as well as everything else. But their agenda is, nothing to look at here, folks. Go about your business. And at the same time, you have UFO disclosure addicts that they think the government, this has been going on since I got involved in ufology in, are you ready for this? 1960, when I joined the National Investigation Committee on Aerial Phenomena, NICAP. And back in those days, it was less interested in the phenomena itself than in the supposed conspiracy by the government to keep the information secret, as in Major Kehoe's book, Flying Saucers, Top Secret. I don't think they know any more than any longtime ufologist who's done a lot of field research, as I have, and a considerable number of other people have done, and that newer people like the folks that did the Hellier series, who have been very kind to me. In general, up until I would say the last 10 years, the ufologists think the occultists are into something they don't want to touch because UFOs are respectable. And I have had it from high-level occultists. Don't get involved in flying saucers. The occult is respectable. Flying saucers aren't. And that's just turf wars. It's ill-informed and prevents people seeing that all of these things are on the same spectrum. You talk to a cryptozoologist, they probably don't want to deal, there being exceptions, deal with UFOs. Sasquatch is Sasquatch, and little men coming out of flying saucers are a totally distinct thing, only they're not. They all have the same characteristics. They appear and disappear almost at will, and people see them, even photograph them, and then they're gone. The same would apply to the 150 years that the Society for Psychical Research, of which I was an elected member at one time, have been documenting ghosts and mediumship cases, good ones and not so good ones. They follow exactly the same pattern. I was just watching a documentary that says, the first Man in Black case was Harold Dahl in 1947. That was the famous Maury Island, Portland area experience. And as Keel pointed out, and as you can find if you do a little research, there are Men in Black cases going back at least to the Middle Ages. So those are definitely not CIA agents, because the CIA didn't come into existence until after World War II. By the way, there is something more to be said about that too. The chairman of the board of NICAP back in the day was Admiral Roscoe Hillenkotter, who was also the first chairman of the Central Intelligence Agency. that will be in the new book in some detail, because clearly they were trying to keep everything in its own category. So I hope I'm not being too in the weeds on this one, because I think just the phrase turf wars says it all. They don't want other people's, as they see it, separate subject, which it's not, to interfere with them chasing Bigfoot. And like all of these other things, why do they continue to have great sightings and great documentation, but never seem to get to the point of resolution? Because there is no resolution unless you incorporate quantum theory, all of these various types of phenomena, and see them as different aspects of one underlying, very, very transformative reality.
You know, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I don't know if you caught the latest NASA press conference regarding UFOs and their study, but these scientists, they made a fool and a mockery out of this entire phenomena, in my opinion. And what you just said, which is unbelievably agreeable to what we saw happen yet with that NASA conflict, or I shouldn't say conflict, that NASA conference, pardon me. I mean, it really goes to show that there is a cover-up, that there is a higher power that is not wanting humanity to advance to that next level unless they are the ones controlling the advancement, whether it's militarily, whether it's through law, or whether now it's through AI and communication.
Yeah, that's to me, that's obviously the fact, but apparently it's people keep expecting. Someone who's been involved in this as long as I have, and I only know a handful of people that are still alive that have been involved that long, was second generation ufologists, have seen this so many times. I mean, many of us thought that when the Air Force ended Project Blue Book way back in the day. By the way, Project Blue Book was not this elaborate thing. There are private UFO organizations that are much larger. It was one middle echelon officer, an enlisted Air Force man, and a secretary. That was Project Blue Book. I can name everybody who worked on that. The two defectors they had, one dropped dead at 40 something mysteriously, and the other was Dr. Hynek. And he, the last time I talked to him, he had been fired by the Air Force because he changed sides and said this stuff is real. Up until then, he was on the CIA panel in 1953. He was the Air Force advisor for, I guess before Blue Book even started. It was Project Sign or Grudge or whatever it was called before Blue Book. Anyway, so Blue Book ended, and they assigned Dr. Edward U. Condon at the University of Colorado to do an extensive investigation, and he hired a bunch of people, and a lot of ufologists expected this was going to prove that the phenomena was real, and the expectation was disappointed. Very much like, was it yesterday? It seems like years ago, the NASA thing and the Pentagon's UFO, the new project where they use that, I think, deliberately ridiculous term UAP, which I say, if UFO is pronounced UFO, then UAP is pronounced UAP, 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 UAP. Anyway, Condon, it turned out, had decided in advance that he was going to come out with a negative report regardless of what his field investigators came up with. If you go through the entire 700, 800-page report, there are some really good cases in there that were thoroughly investigated under the grant that was given to the University of Colorado. But in getting the grant, Condon had written, and somehow it wound up in semi-public domain, The trick will be to seem to be actually interested in this stuff, while in the end saying there's nothing to it. This is before the investigation. If you do that, whatever you're doing, it isn't science, it's propaganda. And that's what happened then. And I think that's what's happening now. And if people get their expectations up that NASA or the DARPA or the Air Force or the Pentagon or any of that is going to say, well, we've looked into this, there are a lot of unknowns, so we think that it's some kind of visitation. That's not going to happen. I mean, it's just not part of their game, and it's a wasted effort. The effort should be to do the field research without advanced assumptions about what is involved. And cryptozoologists and ufologists ought be talking about the similarities and phenomena, and people that are interested in apparitions, ghosts, miraculous appearances, as in apparitions of the Virgin Mary. These have points in common that need to be considered, and you can only consider it if you have people who are expert in all of these things.
So High Strangeness or Strange Highness says, this guy might be my long lost dad. And Mike in the chat room says, this guy just tells it straight up. Love it. You know, the one thing that I really liked what you said was the ridiculousness of the whole UAP acronym. And
yeah, it's stupid.
The one thing that I have learned through this, and a lot of people don't believe me on this, but the one thing that I've learned over the last couple of months is that UAP really does stand for man-made objects. And identify. They have no idea what a UFO is. Or I shouldn't say they don't. They do, but that's a secret that they want to keep. That's their own secret cipher.
Yeah, they're shooting down Chinese balloons, which, that's a separate issue. I mean, during World War II, Japan floated, it's the way the prevailing winds blow. There's thousands of balloons towards Vancouver, towards LA. They wound up making a few forest fires in Washington State, I think, inland. But so why would China not do that? But shooting them down seems you might mistake something for a balloon that isn't a balloon, particularly since the symbolism that I first noticed with the Newkirks and the Hellier thing and their associates was that balloons, specifically these mylar helium balloons that people do for birthdays and so forth, were one of the synchronicities that occurred in the most unlikely of circumstances, out in the middle of a desert, just floating by while an investigation is going on, or they thought they had figured out what their mysterious message from, I don't know, from Terry Wrist or Indrid Cold was. I saw it and I knew what it was because it was a Toronto-based Canadian, what do they call it? A tracking number for a delivery service, but they thought it was a latitude and longitude. And one of their more adventuresome guys went out in the middle of nowhere to this exact spot, and there was a happy birthday balloon. And they told me that. And I said, yeah.
Yeah. We'll get more into synchronicities, stories, the occult, how it all ties together. We'll take your questions for Alan as well if you're in one of our chat rooms or on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio. Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio with Allen Greenfield coming up right after this. Stay tuned. Having fun yet, Alan?
Oh yeah, this is. I just worry that I get too far into the weeds, you know. I mean, the simple answers, I know you have talked to more than a few of these people that, oh yeah, they're from Mars. And that was when I got involved.
You just bring it, my man. I'm going to put you in the green room. We'll be right back. I'm just going to take a quick break here, step out of studio. So we'll be back in a couple seconds. Hold on, guys. All right, I am back. And yes. Thank you, Alan. Got that.
Well, we've bounced the title so often that they say, what's the title of the new book? And I say, Secrets of something or other. I don't do titles.
Well, it's all good.
Yep.
Good. Oob to Joe's Main, you've got aliens. Yeah, you do. You got some serious aliens. And what else are we here?
Drink your Ovaltine.
Drink your Ovaltine. That's right. The power message of the night from Allen Greenfield. Drink your Ovaltine.
Well, I was a member of Captain Midnight's 1957 Secret Squadron, and the decoded message always said, drink your Ovaltine, or some variation thereof.
We got about 45 seconds. I want to say a big thank you tonight to Not of This World, Shade, Catherine, Simon, Cat Chaser, Deb, and Linda for the amazing super chats. Thank you very much for the love and support. If you're new here, do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, give us a thumbs up or thumbs down. All helps with the algorithms as we grow Spaced Out Radio online, so we'd greatly appreciate it. And you can do some shopping at spacedoutradio.com, where we got great swag there for you. We do. Yeah, we do. Okay, let's make this happen. Here comes the second half or second hour Spaced Out Radio. Please put your questions in capital letters for Alan, and I will get to them. Here we go.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. We are talking with Dr. Allen Greenfield tonight. It's a great show, and we'll get back to Allen in just a moment. We want to remind you that if you're listening on our terrestrial affiliates across North America, thank you so much, and digitally on TalkStream Live, Odyssey Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us, will you, at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Rosh is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here we go. Dr. Allen Greenfield is with us. Brand new book about to come out. Secrets of the Real Black Lodge Revealed. And yes, it's causing a lot of controversy already. And why not? The man who is writing it is very highly controversial, but very on cue with everything that's going on. Why is this book so controversial, Dr. Greenfield?
Because for reasons that I really don't know, talking about the Black Lodge is something that, whereas in the early 20th century and earlier, it was a standard concern of occultists, it just, prior to World War II, it stopped being a subject that you mentioned in polite company, so to speak. And when I arrived on the scene much later than that, I didn't know that it was a no-no subject. And to this day, I don't know why it's a no-no subject. I mean, you know, when you talk about praeter-human intelligences, which is common in the Crowley circles, and contact with alien beings, and little men that get out, not green, but little, that get out of flying saucers. Why should the subject of the Black Lodge be so forbidden? So the forbidden is my business. So if you tell me it's forbidden, I'm going to look into it. And I've been looking into it for 20 odd years. I have had my share of warnings, but while it is alluded to in the second in the series of the complete secret cipher, the Ufonauts, the secret rituals of the men in black, when I talk about LAShTAL being a demonic entity, demonic doesn't necessarily mean supernatural. It does mean vile and evil. Or the Nazis took a really, really, really big interest in communication with the Black Lodge. In fact, one of the official institutions in Nazi Germany was the Schwarzorden, the Black Order. And of course, the SS was sufficiently into this kind of stuff that they even had ritual preparations for contacting beings who don't have the same kind of atmospheric needs that we have. It's called the ritual of the stifling air. And that was performed at the SS Center, which was not used too much. And sure enough, there are much newer stories about that period of time and prior to it that are being foisted on us as if they were from World War II and immediately before, in other words, during the Nazi era, but by neo-Nazi groups in Germany today and by their North American counterparts. I mean, it sounds like science fiction, but it's not. The whole story about the Vril women, which people who are involved in this, that story doesn't date from the 1920s or the end of World War I, as it's said. It dates from the 1970s and came directly from a neo-Nazi group in Germany. And I don't know who the pictures of it's a recruiting mechanism for this neo-Nazi group that claims, they, at the end of World War II, the Vril women escaped to a planet around the star Aldebaran. And there really is a star by that name. But the whole story is a manufactured come on to get people interested in their neo-Nazi stuff. So look at that with great skepticism. I did a program with UFO hunters a couple of times, actually, but this one was about Nazi UFOs. And at that time, I thought that was, an authentic part of the Vril Society, the Thule Group, and other pre-Nazi groups that were a product of Weimar Germany. Something that everyone should study because it has similarities to our present moment in history, when it would be possible to do something to keep history from repeating in a very bad way. But it certainly existed, but there were no real women, at least not those women. And the pictures must be, female members of their group in the most alluring poses possible in order to get people's attention. And people should be cautious about these stories if you don't have an independent source for that kind of information.
I want to ask you, for many of us who may not understand, what is the Black Lodge?
It's not a club that has a sign on the door somewhere. That's what it's not. As near as I can describe it, just as there are magical people, human beings, who attain to great heights of power so that they are no longer incarnate. They're discarnate beings who are dedicated to the advancement of the betterment of humanity, sometimes called the secret chiefs of the Third Order, sometimes called the, the Theosophists call them. Any Theosophists out there can help me. They have a different term for it. And the Nine Unknown, the Kabbalistic Lamidvavniks, the 35 people for whose sake the world is maintained. These are very advanced adepts who very much like the bodhisattvas of Buddhist Theravada Buddhist lore, are capable of attaining Buddhahood and going on totally beyond any kind of, human existence. They choose to remain as assists to ordinary folks like us in our quest to improve our lot and the lot of humanity as a whole. Well, there's another group, and they reach a certain point in their development where they are very, very advanced magicians, just as the secret chiefs or the Lamidvavniks or whatever. But they, for whatever reason, I have my suspicions, but motivations. I'm not a psychiatrist, and I don't have Black Lodge members on the couch, so I'm not sure. But they basically, they're the Darth Vaders of reality in the real world. They choose to harness and stay with the dark side of the Force. And they have some kind of informal organization which can loosely be called the Black Lodge. It was the bane of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn back at the turn of the 20th century, end of the 19th, beginning of the 20th, and it brought down the Golden Dawn. That's, and regardless of the various organizations that lay claim to being the Golden Dawn now, there is a disruption, and it certainly is not the same kind of organization it was then, because it had, members that were famous writers and poets and the kind of people that in Victorian society were luminaries. That is no longer the case, and has not been for a very long time. So the Black Lodge is essentially the confederation of those who have taken the dark side and who use their considerable abilities to interfere with people like us who are delving into this, and to scare the bejesus out of people who might become interested in that sort of thing. Is that a fair, brief assessment? If you meet them, they're going to seem ordinary. And there are also people who have just thrown in with them, I don't know, for power or for, the devil's bargain type people. And they don't have powers, they just draw on the Black Lodge. But it stopped being discussed about 1920 something, early 1920s. Not my favorite guy, but Aleister Crowley was the last person I can think of who had a name in occult circles who used that term openly. And he used it again in his posthumously published Magic Without Tears. But other than that, and that was 1947, 48, something like that. It wasn't published until much later. But it just hasn't been discussed. So I thought, well, I had originally thought I would do a book as the third volume of the Secret Cipher trilogy on the secret chiefs. But that's not a no-no subject. It's something that has been discussed by other people. The Black Lodge in modern times, in my lifetime anyway, has not been discussed. So it's not a rehash of the old material, although of course it's referenced. It's coming right up to date. What is the Black Lodge today, and what is it doing? And things like cases of men in black, mysterious deaths. There's a long, long list of ufologists who died way too young. Some of them people that I knew. One of the things that we discuss in the book, the new book, is that factor. And Olaf, my publisher, and I discussed it, and we decided we would not include anyone, say, older than 50, because people are mortal, and you can say, oh, that was a strange death, but the only exceptions to that would be people who had very strange experiences at the time of their death, and that could be at any age. But the fact is, a lot of people involved in ufology and other related matters died young. And sometimes it was a key person, like the editor of Illuminate Press, who, when he went, Illuminate Press disappeared. And since they were my first publisher, it hit me personally. There were people who were saying, Alan, you better watch out for yourself. And I said, well, I don't know. I remember Jim Keith and I shared a table where we were autographing books way back. And I thought, Jim walks that line between the black helicopter stuff and UFO stuff. And he attracts both audiences. Of course, he was selling more books than I was. But he made a mistake. He went to Burning Man, had a sprained ankle, nothing more than that, and was dead the next day. I don't think that was an accident. Ron Bonds went to dinner in a restaurant I have been to many times. He was dead before morning. Nobody else who was in the restaurant got sick, so it was not a question of, there being some general poison in the food. And even if it were food poisoning, that was awfully quick. I can only think of somebody like Jim Henson, young, healthy person, suddenly dies with no health problem involved. So it looks a lot like the kind of poisonings that one associates with Vladimir Putin these days. Fell out of a window, poisoned with polonium, whatever. It has happened a lot. Does it make me afraid? Not particularly, no. I had one encounter with, I'm not sure that he was a person in the Black Lodge, but he was certainly working for them. Sorry, there goes my voice, but that's just age, nothing else. And this is coffee, regular coffee, not spiked with anything except a sugar substitute.
Getting a lot of questions from our audience about, everything from black-eyed kids to Men in Black and the identity of the. Do you believe Men in Black are maybe a paramilitary type group, or do you believe they are of ultra-terrestrial descent?
Black-eyed kids, the Shadow Man, the Slim Man, Men in Black, Women in Black, are all the same phenomena that show up at people's doors so many times and for so long. They can't possibly be government agents, cannot be, because which government would that be? I suppose if it's being done by MI6 in England, they've been around since the Norman Conquest. But in terms of it being the CIA or the FBI or DARPA or any other U.S. government agency, that just doesn't fly, because they predate all of those things. They predate the United States, period. there are probably instances where there have been attempts to emulate the actual men in black in order to shut certain people up who maybe saw some weapon in development, something, like the B-1 bombers or other stealth technology that they wanted to dissuade the person from talking about it. But I would say fully 90% of all of these cases are the same thing, the same phenomena. And there's always that notion of don't let the wrong one in. If you invite them in, you're likely to get bitten in one sense or another. So I think they're supernatural in the sense that they're, well, let's say preternatural, extra natural. In other words, they're from fairy.
Where do you think, or what would possess the men in black to come around?
Well, I'm not going to presume to understand their motivations, but clearly the effect that they have is to create fear, confusion, and silence. John Keel used to be fond of saying there are far more silent contactees than there are cases that we know about. And part of the reason for that is that these incidents where black-eyed kids show up at somebody's door and say cryptic things and want to invite themselves in, or the men in black show up at a UFO club and intimate that they need to get another hobby, or anything of that sort. They seem to want to provoke fear. They always have some nominal reason for being there, but in reality, the fear probably is the reason. They want to generate fear and enhance what I was speaking about in the first hour about turf wars. When they show up in a cryptid related case, it creates suspicion of maybe this was some UFO nut trying to scare us off from Sasquatch or Bigfoot or the abominable snowman or Yetis, all the same thing. But I think that is as much motivation as we can get. Why do they want to create that fear? They don't want to be discovered. But why they don't want to be discovered, seeing as how we really don't have the capacity to interpenetrate their realities, and they seem to be able to come and go more or less at will. I really think that they're just trying to throw us off, and they do a very good job of it. Slender Man and Hat Man, all of these things, they have the bare bones of the stories are always the same, but the specifics vary. And I don't think that it's a case of, 6 people see a car accident and they have 6 different stories about it. I think that they actually see something quite different because there is a lot of projection involved and we are limited in what we can see. So that's as close as I can come to an explanation.
And you know what? That's probably the perfect time for you to finish up your explanation, because we have to go to another break here on Spaced Out Radio. Allen Greenfield is our guest tonight on the big show, and we are talking everything from aliens to the occult and men in black, black-eyed kids, everything in between that just doesn't seem to make sense. And that's what we are doing tonight. We have Allen for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. We're having a great time hanging on out with Mr. Greenfield. I'm proud to say nothing weird has happened in the studio just yet, but there's still time. I'm sure Allen will make it happen. Spaced Out Radio continues with the second half of the show, coming up right after this. All right, we are clear.
That's the highest level of Scientology, to be clear. Ooh. That's as
Why
close
not?
to the yeah.
Why not? Why not?
I don't know. I don't envy Tom Cruise, although some of his wives have been very attractive ladies. I'll take them if you don't want them.
Well, you screwed up with a couple of them. I got a couple audience questions that we'll kick off the next hour with.
Okay, I've got to correct something I said. I said we don't have any ability, but there is a magical process where you can create a portal to otherwhere. It's just very advanced stuff. It would be Enochian stuff. Someday I will go on some program that'll be willing to let me open the portal, but it's I don't know.
You said, you know what? We'll do that. I'll rebook you right now. When do you want to do it? Let's open the portal.
Yeah, I would really need. You can't do it alone. You have to have a scryer. You have to have certain paraphernalia. Back in my OTO days, I had access to all of that stuff. I even wife number 3 was an artist, and so I had the Enochian table, and but time and tide, here I am sitting in a pyramid of bins and boxes from just having moved. But I tell you what, if I reach a circumstance where I can do that, it'll be on your show.
Perfect.
Nobody else has asked me, so.
Oh, I want it. Bring it
Yeah.
on. Bring it on, my man. We've had enough strange stuff happen with you around.
Well, I always end those things by closing the portal. I think that one of the worst mistakes ever made by Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard was out in the Mojave Desert. They opened a portal. They got the information they wanted. They summoned the magical woman, Babylon, but they didn't close the portal. And the fact is, the Mojave is the perfect place for things to come out. And that was 1946, which is immediately before the modern era of flying saucers began. So I don't think it's coincidence. As somebody said, a door was open, something came through. You have to close it at the end. And if you don't, you're being exceedingly irresponsible and kind of like Pandora opening the box, you know. It's something that you want to do under controlled circumstances. But I've done it 30 times with an assortment of people in a locked room. So it's sort of like a seance, except it was experimental. And my very skeptical eldest son, the screenwriter, he was present for one of these sessions, and he was impressed. And if you can impress him with anything non-material, you're doing real well. I'm not going to plug his movie, but he's got a new one out. I guess he doesn't have anything coming because I think they're all on strike, aren't they, the screenwriters?
I believe they are right now.
Yeah, well, between movies, he scripts wrestling, which is you're not supposed to be.
For what company?
He used to be with the big one,
WWE.
Yeah, he was with the WWE. He lived in that little town in, is it Connecticut?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was making a 6-figure salary, but he said he just, after a year or two of that, he just said, you know, these guys really suffer. They're paid extra to cut themselves, and they're juiced to the max. Some of them go crazy. There was one here in Atlanta who murdered his whole family and then shot himself.
That was Chris Benoit.
Yeah, it was Chris Benoit. And so he's with one of the smaller federations now. I mean, that's a second career for him. I think he loves doing it, but
yeah. Hold on, Alan. Here we go right now. Sorry, I ran out of time here. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We have until the top of the hour. Allen Greenfield is here. Yeah, let's get strange. Let's get weird. Let's get to your questions right off the bat. Let's go to Paramarv here, who is wondering, Dr. Greenfield, what about the 9 and or the entities that they were engaged with? Where are they at on your spectrum? What was going on there?
Well, when they started, it was in India like 2,000 years ago. And it was during the reign of the Emperor Ashoka, who I think introduced Buddhism to India, which of course didn't stick forever, but had a profound effect on history. They were considered to be on the secret chief side, that is, advanced beings who had attained from their originally human condition and who were hidden away, hence the name 9 Unknown. Although I don't know that the number 9 may be deceptive there. But in more recent history, they seem to be associated with things like the Thuggee, who were a kill cult during the British Raj in India. They killed hapless travelers, and I would consider them to be probably in or associated with the Black Lodge now. Whether they're still in India or not, I don't know, but this is covered, I believe. I haven't seen the proof sheets yet, in the new book, which Dave has the title in front of him because I keep forgetting the title we settled on after.
Secrets of the Real Black Lodge Revealed.
Revealed, yes.
Real.
The 9 Unknown, I would say, are pretty much as described in the novel of the same name, which was by a guy who wrote under the name Talbot Mundy, not his real name, but he had been a British civil servant in India, and the book goes back to 1920s or whatever, but the story of the 9 Unknown goes back to antiquity. It's just one of those titles for either the secret chiefs or the Black Lodge, depending on what they're doing. If they're doing bad things, I think the agenda of the Black Lodge is to create disharmony among nations, because for some bent reason, they really want a global thermonuclear war. And of course, that couldn't have been their goal 1,000 years ago, but it seems to be the closest thing they have to a goal now. And their method is not to be on anybody's side, but to set one side against the other, against the other, against the other. And that doesn't seem to serve anybody's interest in mind. These are more or less discarnate, powerful beings, and scruples they have not. None.
Okay, let us move on. Next question. Let's go to Jeremy here. Talk about NASA and the occult connection.
Well, NASA has been, since its inception in the 1950s, dealing with the unknown. I mean, at that time, space travel was totally fantasy. The first movie I ever saw was Destination Moon, based on a story by Robert Heinlein, and about the fantastic idea of a group of people going to the moon. Well, 20 years later, thanks to NASA and their paperclip scientists from Nazi Germany, they got there and continued to go there for a while, and there's likely to be other trips later, even to Mars, if you believe certain owners of Twitter who will remain nameless. But I think along the line, among the things that NASA encountered was the fact that so many astronauts would go into space and come back with a distinct set of different interests and values than they had gone with. I mean, the early astronauts were picked for having the right stuff, being peaches and cream guys that would be acceptable even to, fundamentalists, and they were very worried about image. So you had squeaky clean people like John Glenn and Edgar Mitchell and so forth. A lot of them came back very different. Something happened to them in space. I think that NASA made a decision somewhere fairly early on, and not by the present administration in NASA. The guy that's running it used to be governor of Florida back when Florida had sane governors. Editorial comment, copyright, blah, 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 blah. Ignore me. The decision was made to de-emphasize the outre stuff. I mean, going into space was outre enough, right? But seeing UFOs, maybe doing experimental things that were off books, so to speak, that's been done since the 1950s, and perhaps even earlier, because there were some very interesting experiments involving the founder of JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, was also the master of an occult lodge at the same time. He eventually blew himself up, or was blown up, but there's a long set of the public face and the private face of NASA. I think the fundamental idea of going into space is a good one. It's something that the human race has always had a new frontier to go at. I think the notion that space is, as they said in Star Trek, the final frontier is ridiculous. That's more in the direction of these other realities that I've been talking about. But NASA has a public face that seems to be more important to them than just being candid and truthful about everything that goes on. Every anomaly in space is either not discussed at all or is written off, which sounds a lot like how the government treats UFO cases. They write them off even if there are multiple witnesses and it's a landed object and has no rational explanation whatsoever, or conventional explanation. So take anything you get from NASA about any of these strange phenomena with a large crystal of salt.
Do you
I don't
believe?
think they're necessarily ill-intended, by the way. I think that they think, like a lot of people in power, think that we're not ready for the real truth. And that's just, that's nonsense.
Do you think then that NASA does have nefarious things happening on the moon as we speak? Or bases on the moon? Do we have humans on the moon? The secret space program? All sorts of interesting pieces to the puzzle?
Well, having not been to the moon recently myself, I can't tell you for certain, but I'll put it this way. If there are people on the moon presently, probably on the so-called dark side of the moon, we wouldn't hear about it. So those who think that there is a secret space program, there may well be, and if there is, we aren't going to know about it. It's sort of the opposite end of the spectrum of people who say the whole space program never happened and it was all done in a studio and so forth. That's the other end of the spectrum. Maybe, certainly some things have been done that are, it's public that they're not public, which is like recently I think there was a satellite put into orbit on behalf of the Defense Intelligence Agency. And nothing has been said about what it was used for. I mean, one can imagine, but nothing has been said about it was used for. It circled the Earth for, I don't know how long, months or a year. And the results of it are unknown. And its reason for existing is unknown. So was it to communicate with the vast active living intelligence system, VALIS, as the late Philip K. Dick would have had it? Or was it something that was just to spy on China? They have balloons, so why not? If I knew for certain, I don't know whether I would say anything or not. It depends on what it is. I do know that because at the time I had an in with the then head of the Senate Armed Services Committee, the late Richard Russell. He arranged for me to go see the Project Blue Book files, which after Blue Book closed, it was taken to the Redstone Arsenal in Alabama. So I got the opportunity to look at them. And my conclusion was, they don't know anything that I don't know. And I looked very thoroughly. I also saw and said hello to Werner von Braun, who was there for reasons that elude me, because he was definitely not a ufologist. And I have very mixed feelings about Herr von Braun. But I think that we overestimate what the government knows. And by the government, I mean US, UK, Canada, Australia, anybody that's looked into this, China included. They certainly are on the moon, on the dark side.
All right, let's get to another audience question. Love is asking, what are your thoughts on the Key of Solomon? What would you do if you felt Boone was summoning you?
I would be cautious about it, but I have worked with the, I assume you're talking about the Clavicola Salomonis, the Key of Solomon, because there is a lesser Key of Solomon as well. These are very old books. Some say medieval, some say they are ancient, really ancient, like ancient Egyptian, Heka magic. I've worked with a great many of them, and they do produce really, really complex magical results, but that's within a controlled environment. I'm very big on having as much as possible scientific controls on these things. If you're just interested in it and have thumbed through an English translation of the Latin text, which is probably a translation of a Greek text, which is probably a translation of a Hebrew text, or a hieratic ancient Egyptian text, please, people, don't fool around with it. The results, if you don't know what you're doing, is the same as fooling around with radium or, or with some virus that might appear from some laboratory in some country and be carelessly gotten out for the detriment of the whole world. If you're interested, take it one step at a time. Don't leap into the Goetia or the Lesser Key of Solomon or the Greater Key of Solomon or the Book of Abramelin and the Magi. If you want a taste of what that is like, well, I do that sort of thing. In fact, Dave and I, when we were off the air, were talking that if I ever do a portal invocation to otherwhere, it will be on Dave's program. So that requires a lot of paraphernalia and things, but I know what I'm doing, and even I am very cautious about it. So the answer is I would think several times and know what I'm talking about before I invoke anything from any of the medieval grimoires, the Key of Solomon included. And I assume you mean the Greater Key, not the Lesser Key. They're both okay. I mean, their information is accurate, put it that way.
All right, let's move on. As we only got about 7 minutes left, and we got 3 questions here. Let's go to Paranormal Pixie. Alan, do you think that perhaps Sasquatch are a species of fae? If so, why?
Yes, but there's a trick to the answer. I think the fae, that is fairies or fairyland or the various other terms that are used for the little people, the Cherokee, not too far from where I live, term them the Yumwee Chumdee, which just means the scary little people. Yeah, I think a big shaggy creature and a little fairy-like or fairy creature are simply the same thing seen under differing circumstances. It's Magonia, it's otherwhere, it's fairy, F-A-E-R-I-E. And the fact that they look different is because there is a diversity of phenomena. There's also the flawed senses that human beings have for seeing these things. Some people see them as tiny, winged, naked creatures, and some people see them as giant, hairy, smelly Sasquatches. I'm almost certain of this, reason being they both have you chasing rainbows, and you never quite get to the rainbow. It's the nature of rainbows and the nature of people. 2 more? Do we have time for?
Yes,
I want everybody happy.
Let's go to Jules. Where is the Ark of the Covenant?
Probably in the basement of the Vatican. Might be in Ethiopia, but it also may have been destroyed, and that would be a long answer involving the kingdom of Judah at the time of King Josiah, the destruction of the first temple in Jerusalem, and the construction of the second temple, which apparently had the poles but didn't have the ark anymore. It may have been destroyed because it was considered to be pagan by then because of the cherubs on it. Hard to say, because again, it was a case of an evolving perspective on the divine.
Okay. And your final question from our audience tonight. Love. Are you familiar with the upper and lower key of Solomon? What do you find useful? Didn't you just answer that?
Yes, I did. And yes, I have read both and a number of other. I seldom recommend films on the occult other than my son's film. Lullaby is the name of his current film, and he grew up with this stuff, which is not usually true. There is a film that I have no relationship to called A Dark Song, which has a fairly accurate depiction in a fictional context of the Abramelin working, which is from the book of Abramelin, one of the medieval grimoires. And it is one of the few films that deals with occult subjects that actually, obviously the people that did the film, whoever the screenwriters were, knew what they were doing. So, yeah, I'm very familiar with the keys of Solomon. They're probably not from Solomon, but they're certainly from Zoharic sources in deep Jewish mysticism, which happens to be my speciality.
Alan, for you, what, as we got about 2.5 minutes to go here, what are your next steps? What's new in coming up in your world here?
Well, getting this book out, not to play like a broken record on it, but getting this book out has been an ordeal. It's Olive and I have been back and forth so many times, but both of us have come up with some really original material, and I have yet to receive the draft that will be the precursor to the publication. It'll be out soon, but I can't tell you exactly when. So I'm nurturing that, working on that, and in the meantime, I'm trying to answer questions in as many, what is the plural of forum? Forums, fora, whatever, as are kind enough to invite me, and answer as many questions as I can as a prequel to people hopefully reading the book and giving the same kind of generous response that they have given to Secret Cipher, largely due to the Newkirks and the Hellier people helping me along.
Well, we appreciate that, and we can't wait for you to get that book done. And in the meantime and in between time,
Let's have fun.
What are you doing about all them men in black knocking at your door?
They don't knock at my door. Maybe that's because I'm well-armed, dangerous, and don't take nothing from no one.
I love it. So you're not worried
if I
about
disappear, though, nobody is immortal in this mortal coil. So
that's okay. But you are.
This is an amazing show. What? I think we've done real good here, Dave.
Well, we're always trying to accomplish something when you're here. I'm just surprised that nothing weird happened during tonight's show.
Yeah, me too. You know, generally speaking, it does. I feel neglected.
I do. I feel left out on that.
Well, wait till you get home.
Well, my home is in my studio, so I'll go check out the High Strangeness right after we get off the air here. But thank you so much, Alan, again for coming on. It's always a pleasure to have you on Spaced Out Radio, my friend.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be on your program, too. So thank you so much.
We'll talk to you very, very soon. Dr. Allen Greenfield, everybody. Coming up next, Shane Michael Chris takes us on the Cryptid journey. We got a story from Steve Stockton. It's Dave 101 night and the strange news of the week, all coming up in hour number 3. Thank you, boss.
Oh, did I do okay?
Did great.
I don't like doing the secret space program because I don't like naysaying anything, but I think that these people are too slippery for anybody to say anything specific, and I don't want to be locked out of the loop on those things. I get inside tips, but anyway, I think we pretty well covered the range, and I see people are sending you money, so what can I say? Have fun.
I love you. You take care, Alan.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. We'll be right back, everyone. Right back. All right. Big thank you tonight to our super chatters, Susie B, Jeremy, Christine, Jeff, Shade, Catherine, Not of This Earth, Simon, Cat Chaser, Deb, and Linda. Thank you for the love and support. that you are giving us. Appreciate you. Very much do. We got like just over a minute here. And Shane, I know you're listening in the background. Steve Stockton's story will be about 6 minutes long. Then we'll take you till the bottom of the hour. I love Allen Greenfield. Oh, Mike's ready for the Dave 101. Yeah, the old Dave 101. What will I chat about tonight? I don't know. If you haven't already and you're new here, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell. We'd appreciate it. Leave a comment after the show. Let us know what you think. We'd appreciate it. And let's get going here in like 3 seconds.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you so much for tuning us on in, wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live at KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us, will you, at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us, Clam? Rosh. Rosh is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Let us head over to Steve Stockton and Among the Missing for another creepy story.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing. Hello, my wandering wanderers. Steve Stockton here with you again for ATM on SOR. Tonight, we have a cryptid story from the pen of BMR, Bigfoot Michigan Rob Carr. Porcupine Mountain Bigfoot. This encounter takes place in the Upper Peninsula's Porcupine Mountains during the summer of 2015. You've never been to the Upper Peninsula in the state of Michigan. Many that live here describe this as their own personal God's country, where you can see signage proudly displayed through the various counties of the Upper Peninsula during your travel. This great land is lush with deep and dense forests full of wildlife, surrounded by Lake Michigan to the west, Lake Superior to the north, and Lake Huron to its east. This is a perfect getaway for vacationers, or perhaps you are in need of a lifestyle change and just want to get away from the constant hustle and bustle of Detroit and all the surrounding suburbs. With all the beauty that surrounds this section of North America, this encounter, told by someone who wants to remain anonymous, we'll call him Jimmy, claims to have had the absolute worst day of his 35 years living in the Porcupine Mountains. Jimmy gets up bright and early on a Monday morning and decides to go hike a certain section of the mountains that he had never explored. He parked his Jeep Wrangler at a location where he felt comfortable leaving it and proceeded to walk just outside the tree line in search of a path or trail leading up into the mountains, which were displayed gloriously in the background of the forest. After an hour or so of hiking, Jimmy became frustrated and couldn't find a clearing in which to travel. He stumbled upon some thick brush along the perimeter of the woods and noticed a large opening or hole, maybe the size of a commercial airliner tire. Jimmy crouches down and looks inside of this gap and notices that it goes pretty deep into the forest and appears to open up a bit where he could walk. Jimmy, prepared with a machete, starts to cut away at the foliage as he starts working himself through the area. About 20 feet of working at this path, Jimmy decides to turn around when he notices that the path appears to expand and give him enough room where he could stand fully upright. Excitement and an adrenaline rush then took over Jimmy's body, and he continued forward. Jimmy described what he was walking down as it opened up like a tunnel that's made of brush, trees on either side of him, and is also covered with thick, dense brush, tree limbs, and other assorted foliage over the top. After 9 or 10 minutes, Jimmy found that he could walk upright without the need of the machete to plow forward, when all of a sudden, he feels the need to turn back. Now, he can't put his finger on why he suddenly was overcome with this, especially after putting in all this hard work, but his intuition took over and he turned back out of this brush tunnel. Several days went past, and Jimmy felt the need to go back and finish the adventure that he had started down there at the tunnel. The end of the week neared, and Jimmy goes back for a second time, intending to finish what he'd started. He was wondering why this location had such a hold on him, and his curiosity simply wouldn't rest till he found out why. Jimmy approached the tunnel and proceeded past the area where he last turned around. After traveling about another 20 feet or so inside, a smell starts to overtake him. It was a pungent smell, something like a mix of body odor and wet animal fur. Frustrated, Jimmy once again decided to turn back when he notices light at the end of the tunnel. You need to take note that this is a sunny day, but the foliage of the tunnel casts his surroundings in a shade of perhaps twilight, not dark, yet not bright, just enough to see without the need of a flashlight. Upon realizing the end of his destination is near, he runs toward the daylight. Jimmy, only several yards from the end of this tunnel, trips and falls over something. Jimmy picks himself up, dusts himself off, but then is horrified that he's now covered in blood, and he realizes that what he tripped over was the freshly dead carcass of a deer that appeared to have been torn into several pieces. Jimmy panics at this point and once again decides to turn back as he believes he's entered the den of some sort of predator. As Jimmy turns back to leave, he realizes that he can't, as he hears a growl and notices a massive head with dark yellow eyes spaced at least a foot apart, staring directly at him from about 20 feet away. This creature was spread out on all fours, of which the legs seemed to touch either side of the walls of the tunnel. This thing is massive. So Jimmy panics and turns back to run toward the daylight at the end of the tunnel. Now Jimmy can hear this beast pursuing him, and it seemed like it was gaining ground when Jimmy suddenly sprawls out at the end of the tunnel and fell several feet from the edge right into a meadow, right at the foothills of the Porcupine Mountains. Jimmy got up, daring not to look back, and then continued to run about 20 yards before he was exhausted. When he finally stopped, Jimmy realized that everything was silent, and instinctively he knew that he was no longer being pursued. He knew he had to look back. The four-legged creature was there at the mouth of the tunnel, and then it proceeded to stand up on two legs, let out a chilling scream, then got back down on all fours and disappeared into the tunnel. Jimmy then realized that he had to find a new way back home, so he wandered for what seemed like hours until he finally reached a road where he sat down to rest. Eventually, a logging truck came into view and stopped to provide assistance. Jimmy got into the truck's cab and reluctantly told his story to his newfound hero. The driver of the truck listened to his story and assured Jimmy that he was not the only person to witness this creature. Jimmy asked the driver, "What is it?" The driver replied, "Most say the Ancient One, known as Sasquatch." And there you have it, friends. What do you think of this Bigfoot story? I look forward to your comments. Thanks again for listening to ATM on SOR. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'll see you just a little farther on down the trail.
That's why we love Steve Stockton around here, bringing it each and every night. We love it. These stories are amazing. And if you want more, head on over to his YouTube channel, Among the Missing, on YouTube. So youtube.com/Among the Missing. Make sure you hit subscribe and ring that bell because he's putting out new content each and every day. All right, it is time for us to go from the scary stories to the scary wilderness. Let's go to the Cryptid Report. Super Duke, the Cryptid Report with Super Duke. Filling in for a hunting Super Duke is Shane Michael Crisp from West Coast Dogman Project. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, brother.
Your chin hair is right on top of your game right now. Seriously. Seriously, good chin hair going on right there. Well, I like a good facial hair every now and again. No, it's I know it's creepy, but I don't really care.
Hey, facial hairs, it makes you a man, I guess. I just can't grow a full beard, unfortunately.
Well, we can lend you some. I got about 5 different beards in the studio right now.
Well, if you have an extra Sasquatch hair, I'd love to use that.
Well, Joe Mugg from California is pretty much like Sasquatch. I got one of his beards, so I can send that one to you if you need.
That'd be perfect.
That'd be absolutely perfect. You're coming in here until we got you till the bottom of the hour, and you'll be filling in pretty much all summer for Super Duke, who is out looking and investigating for Sasquatch in the mountains of Montana. But you're someone who collects reports about what's going on around North America. And, we've had a few weeks of beautiful skies across the continent here, even up here in British Columbia. The mosquitoes have popped out. They are loving me to death. I think
Right.
I think I'm down to about a pint and a half of blood left in me. But what's happening around North America? What kind of sightings are people having right now?
I've been super busy with work and with, the whole dogman phenomenon. I've been collecting some reports I've, obtained over the last year. I've collected 8 reports from the Santa Cruz Mountains. So this last weekend, my wife and I went out to go investigate the area to check it out because I've never been to the Santa Cruz Mountains. So that's where my focus has been, in the last 2 weeks has been honing on that certain part of California because, being a dogman researcher / investigator, that's what I'm looking for is to try to investigate the dogman sightings here in California and primarily the West Coast. But so it took us up there and we didn't find any physical evidence. We went to a campground, the Henry Coel State Park, and we hiked about 3 miles in and checked everything out. There was a lot of people around that were camping and hiking the area. There was a big parade that was going on for the Memorial Day weekend for the veterans and everything. So, and people that had passed, but we really didn't see any physical evidence of whether it be Sasquatch or dogman. But as we were leaving after we got back, we were going to go grab lunch. We happened to go to the Bigfoot Discovery Museum right there in Felton, California, which is just a suburb of the Santa Cruz mountain range. And we happened to go in there and check out all the evidence of Sasquatch and all the castings. And they have this map. Javi with Cryptid 559 has been there as well. And he was telling me about this gentleman, super nice guy. His name's Mike. Never caught his last name, but he was telling me about the sightings. And I was looking at the map, and this whole map is just covered with just pins of where the sightings were. And then they're color coordinated to the decade or where they were last seen. And the last sighting was just 2 months ago at a campground 2.5 miles from where the Discovery Museum was of a Sasquatch. And so that got me really intrigued by it. And so I started talking to the gentleman a little bit more, and I was like, well, hey, I'm a dogman investigator. I'm expecting a laugh. And he didn't laugh. He looked at me straight eyed and he said, Shane, there was a dogman sightings over in Los Gatos, which is about 45 minutes over the mountain range about 3 years ago. So, my juices got flown and the hair stood up on my body. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I asked the wife, hey, can we go over to Los Gatos? And, even though that the dogman sighting was 3 years ago, I still wanted to go check out the area. Maybe we get a glimpse, maybe we catch a nest or some evidence of a dogman. But so we looked on the map and we found a preserve, and I'm thinking a preserve would be a perfect spot where a dogman would be. It's up in the hills and there was a lot of trails around. So we hiked about 1.5 miles in before the terrain got real steep, and we're just like, hey, it's still a 4.5 hour drive home. So around 3 o'clock, we started turning back around. But I did take a picture of what looked like it could be a nest or maybe a blind. In this one bush, it looks like the blinds, not the blinds, but the twigs were snapped to the left. and it just looked like something could probably be sitting in it. I posted it to my Facebook group to see, hey, look, this just stood out to me. Some people said, yeah, it could be possibly something because it, branches don't snap automatically unless it's severe windstorm or something. But the area was real pretty and it looked like it could hold a dogman, but never saw any evidence of like an actual dogman. But the lead to me was like the golden ticket, knowing that there was dogmen in the area and not to be, laughed at by a gentleman who's in the Bigfoot community. To me was also another, key thing that, hey, there's been dogman sightings here in California. So that's what we were working on. And I just interviewed a gentleman tonight who had audio evidence of a dogman from the Beast of Bray Road. It was a howl. So out there at Lee Hampel's farm. So that to me was really compelling too. So, I mean, I'm trying to dive in all different avenues when it comes to cryptids, but dogmen primarily are my, go-to. Then Sasquatch is a close second. So, but the sightings list, I haven't really got a lot. Like I said, I've just been focusing on California as of right now, but I'll definitely start working on that list as the summer continues.
No kidding. I mean, for people who've never experienced the dogman phenomena, what's it like getting close to this creature? What's it like what do you look for when you're out there searching for something so nefarious?
Well, that's the thing is I've never actually had an encounter. I know Javi with Cryptid 559 had a sighting back in, I believe it was 2018. And it almost seems like there's a paranormal aspect to these things on how the way they move. People, you would think that they would start bouncing by the way they run, but a lot of people and a lot of reports say that it looks like they're almost gliding when they're on two legs. And I was talking to the gentleman tonight that I interviewed. His name is Eric Mintel, and he was saying that the eyewitnesses that had seen it around Bray Road all described the same thing when this creature is bipedal, that it moves like it's gliding across something. So I mean, there's a paranormal aspect to it with this thing, whether people want to believe it's flesh and blood or if it's supernatural, but there's obviously a supernatural aspect to these things. This gentleman I was interviewing tonight was saying that one of these reports that really stood out to him was an eyewitness was telling him that when her and her husband were in the car, they saw this creature, it looked fully, like a bipedal canine in physical form. But as it started getting closer to the car, it started pixelating, like it was almost cloaking, and then it just disappeared. So, I mean, right there to me, is just there's a paranormal aspect to these things, whether it be Sasquatch, whether they can cloak or not, So that's just, it's just so much. But when you're out in the field looking for something, I mean, it's hard to find any evidence when you don't know what you're looking for. But being a part of the NADP, Jody's got a manual on what to look for. And that's what I think one of my key tools I use is you're looking for like matted down grass. You're looking for claw marks in the trees. You're looking for hair samples, deer carcasses, whether it be just deer or any type of livestock or something that just stands out of the norm, a den type, because obviously Sasquatch, when they build their tree structures, they're more intricately woven, and compared to a dogman's den, they're more primitive. They just take brush and down tree limbs and just throw them on top of each other. And I mean, I've seen what I think is evidence of a dogman den up in Shaver Lake, which is just not too far from Javi's area up there in Fresno. But I've sent it to multiple dogman researchers, and they all say the same thing, that looks like would be a dogman den compared to being a Sasquatch den. So it's just one of those. It's not set. Nothing's 100% set in facts. It's all theory based. But I mean, as the phenomenon continues to grow, I mean, we're moving like a snail right now in the dogman community when it comes to evidence. I mean, look at the UFO disclosure, how long it took for the government to finally start releasing stuff, a little bit of information. What was it, Dave? Like 70 something years now since Roswell?
Pretty much.
Yeah. So, I mean, Sasquatch is a lot farther along. We have the Patterson Gimlin film, and there's a lot of other good videos out there where they've got hair samples, footprints. Dogman, we're still in our infancy. I'd say within the last 10 years is when the research has really started picking up, and we've barely gotten, footprint, maybe a den, claw marks, but the sightings are increasing, which is, a good thing. And more people are coming forward now that it seems like 10 years ago, they would have been crucified for coming out and saying, hey, you're crazy, you know, talking about this stuff. But it's 2023 now, and it seems like people are more open to the idea, especially as the phenomenon continues to grow.
We got about 4 minutes to go here before we go to break here, and we say goodnight to you. The question about dogmen that a lot of people have: are we dealing with a werewolf? Are we dealing with its own type of creature? I mean, what are we dealing with here? I mean, this creature is just odd.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I know, like you said, we're real short on time. Me personally, I believe that the dogman is its own entity. It's not a shape-shifting person that's cursed that on a full moon turns into this, you know, bipedal canine that's 7 to 8 feet tall and then turns back to a human after, you know, the sun, you know, or when the sun rises. The dogman is its own creature that stands anywhere from 6 to 8 feet tall. It's been seen with the backwards bending leg, the digitigrade leg structure, and the hominid leg structure. Some have been seen with tails. Some have been seen with not tails. I don't believe it's personally a werewolf. I believe that when people associate it with a werewolf, it's these everyday people that don't know that have ever seen the thing or are open to the idea of the dogman. When they see the thing on the side of the road and they're driving by and they're just so starstruck by what they saw, after it stands up, they're like, I saw what it looks like a werewolf. And they always reference, you know, the Van Helsing werewolf, the Howling, the werewolf from London. I mean, they reference what they look like is a werewolf. That's the closest thing they have to compare it to. So I believe your most modern day sightings are just regular dogmen. I don't believe they shapeshift at all.
The idea that this creature is now being seen all over North America. Do you believe that there are numbers are growing with this, or that they've already been there? We're just starting to take note.
Oh, I believe they've always been here since day one. I just believe more people, like I said earlier, are coming forward and being more accepting that, you know, we having good organizations like the NADP, the IDP, all these organizations that you can go to, people that won't, you know, judge you or ridicule you, that will take your report down and, you know, add it to their database. And what we're trying to do right now is just trying to collect a database of, you know, sightings so we can report it and, you know, just go from there. We have a sightings map on our NADP website. It hasn't been recently updated. We need to update it. But I mean, you can check anywhere on the map, and where you see a pin drops, there's been a location that someone has written up. So I do believe they've been here since day one. It's just that more people are now seeing it. I don't know if the veil's thinning. I keep hearing that a lot. I mean, like I said, I keep an open mind to the whole dogman phenomenon. I don't ever discredit anyone on what they say or what they see. I take it into consideration. Like, okay, that's definitely new or that's odd, but you know, it's their own eyes that are seeing these creatures. So you almost have to take in what they see and then just add it to a database, and then you just kind of, you know, go back from there. Like I said, we're still in our infancy on the dogman research, and I think maybe 20 years, 30 years down the road, as the sightings have increased to where it will, you know, supplant the Bigfoot, in my personal opinion, that because it's the new cryptid. Everyone knows about the Sasquatch and the Bigfoot, but the curiosity of being humans, we're like, hey, what's the newest thing? And it seems like it's the dogman as the sightings increase. But yeah, going back since day one, I just think that people are more keen and open to the idea that, hey, this thing there, this is what I saw. So sightings are increasing because more people are coming forward.
Well, that's always a good thing when people come forward.
Exactly.
It really is. Because without those stories, you don't have any leads. And this is where I always find it funny when people say, you know, we're sick of anecdotal stories. We're sick of anecdotal evidence. Well, researchers like yourself, Shane, you need those stories. You need those awarenesses, so that way you know where you're going to go searching for your evidence. So congrats to you. Tell everybody where they can find West Coast Dogman Project.
You can check us out on YouTube. We interview eyewitnesses on our YouTube channel. People that have had encounters or sightings, you know, we interview them. We also have a Facebook group. You can check us out there. And you can also find me over at NorthAmericanDogmanProject.com. I'm one of Jody's regional directors. But we also have a Region 1 director or Region 1 NADP page, as well as the other regions. So you can find me there.
Beautiful. Thank you, Shane. Michael Chris. Coming up next, we're going full-fledged into NASA on the day of 101. Then it's the Weird News of the Week coming up on Spaced Out Radio's final half hour. We'll be right back, right after this. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
Hey, how'd I do? Is that okay?
Fantastic.
I will definitely work on sightings in the next week. I've been super busy with work and
That's okay.
life, and I just thought I could throw out my recent, last weekend research, going
great.
out in the field. So
It worked great.
okay, awesome. I
Great.
didn't want to let you down, brother, because like I say, I really appreciate the consideration to jump in and fill in for Duke. Because it's a big chair to fill, because he's highly respected, and I love the guy.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you next week, okay?
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
See you, Shane. Shane Michael Crisp, West Coast Dogman Project, right there. Dave 101 better not mention NASA. Random guy, you're always a spoiler of the party. Just let me have my moment. Can I have my moment? Please? Can I have my moment? That's all I want. Why can't I just have a moment? That's all I want. The hell is in North Carolina? Thought you were heading to Illinois. There's all sorts of weirdos in North Carolina. I know you're going to Illinois next week. $8 days. It's where the SOR romance party is. You better bring your A game there, random guy. All right, a big thank you tonight to Susie, Jeremy, Christine, Jeff, Shade, Viking, Catherine, Not of This Earth, Simon, Cat Chaser, Deb, and Linda for the amazing super chats. Very much appreciate the love and support. Thank you to everybody who's given us a thumbs up and thumbs down tonight, and everybody who has hit that subscribe button and rang that bell. We very much appreciate the love and support that you are giving us. So thank you very, very much. All right, here we go, everybody. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. I very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is that time of the week where I fire things up. Yell at all the kids to get off my lawn. It's Dave 101.
It's time for Dave 101.
Look, I don't want to go down this road either. And I know most of you are sick of hearing me gripe and complain about the lovely and talented efforts of our good friends at NASA when it comes to UFOs. But this time, they really grinded my gears. So they set up this panel a number of months ago claiming that they were going to spend $100,000 and bring in 14 scientists, astronauts, people of nice NDA backgrounds, and they were going to get to the root of the UFO issue within NASA. What did NASA know? What were they hiding? What is going on? You see, NASA, for over 60 years, has never really admitted they got a UFO problem. No, they've ignored the videos, the audio tapes, and their own astronauts and test pilots for decades who have claimed that when their rockets went up, whether it was Mercury, whether it was Gemini, Apollo, the shuttle program, or even now with SpaceX, that there's never been anything anomalous about what's happening. There's never been anything following what's happening. Oh, but the pilots, the astronauts, well, they tell a different story sometimes. You see, NASA should be at the front and the forefront of everything universal when it comes to space. Yet, their 14 scientists that they chose literally seem to know nothing about UFOs. They barely knew what a UAP was, unidentified anomalous phenomena. They asked basic questions. They gave basic answers. They seemed more interested in where the UFO hotspots were on the map of the world. And they seemed more interested in what the FAA had to say, Federal Aviation Association, than they were about actually disclosing about NASA's indiscretions when it comes to this topic. We are all a little bit dumber today for having wasted 2.5, almost 3 hours listening to these educated individuals who have more pieces of paper hanging on their wall than the majority of us have wallpaper. Yeah, their degrees are shiny. Their knowledge, they'll tell you all about it. But when it comes to UFOs, they were downright stupid. And I don't mind saying that. Now, whether or not they were put up to act that way is a different story, because a non-disclosure agreement has a lot of pull when you're dealing with the U.S. government. I know enough people who have them, who are afraid of them, and who just do not want the hassle of ever breaking them. I get that. I can appreciate that. But when you sit there and talk about the only thing that any astronaut has ever seen is a Bart Simpson balloon, all you're trying to do is patronize the topic once again. This is a topic that NASA could be a leader in. And it's sad that a documentarian in Vancouver named Darcy Weir has more information and audio logs and video logs of astronauts talking about their UFO encounters up in space than NASA will even admit to. It's terrible. It's terrible that a citizen documentarian has more guts to put it out on tape than the organization itself. NASA saying, well, we don't have the budget for it. We may need $100 million more in order to get this done, because we need to be able to pick up the sequences, the signals, and we need the tech. That's about $100 million. Just write us a check, American public. Just put a few zeros on there. Yeah, 100,000 is enough. We need $100 million. It's all a big game. And NASA played a big game. Now, why people were actually defending them and cheering them on, go NASA, on social media after yesterday's press conference is embarrassing. It really is. They dodged questions that they asked the public for. They dodged questions from members of the media. They didn't get to anything of relevance or importance towards this topic. So for anybody out there to actually support what they did outside of getting this topic back on front of the local newspapers, the national newspapers, and on the national news, which is always a good thing, they failed miserably. I give them an F. If there was a grade lower than an F, they would get that too. Look, NASA needed to be asked, what's in your closet? They have too many astronauts who have seen things. They have too many test pilots who have seen things. And for them to play the card where 14 members who are joining this panel for the benefit of ufology and the benefit of humanity, not asking what the biggest space organization on this planet has to offer, is mind-numbing in its own. Here's my question that I put through publicly. I said, what's in your closet? It's nice and simple. It's easy to say. It's easy to answer. What's in your closet? Another question that I had in looking at this panel was they said that they were bringing in all these experts on the UAP stuff. Okay, UAP is man-made. I'll grind that gear until everybody tells me to shut up, but I'll still grind it after that. They brought in a bunch of scientists who know nothing about this field. Why would they not open up the doors to members of the SCU, the Scientific Coalition of UAP Studies? Where was Gary Nolan? Where was Avi Loeb? Love them or hate them, these people at least know what UFOs are. They are searching for it. Where was Jacques Vallée? You think Jacques Vallée and Gary Nolan couldn't have made a difference on that panel? Love him or hate him, Richard Dolan, a former professor, should have been there. There's enough educated people that NASA could have chose from, but they didn't. They didn't, because they want to keep the narrative quiet. You see, ladies and gentlemen who are listening, this is all about a narrative. And if you haven't figured that out yet, I feel sorry for you. They don't want to talk about this subject. They don't want to deal with this subject. That's why when they were bouncing around from the FAA to the hot spots in North America and around the world, never once were they asked, and never once did that panel of 14, whose job it was to ask NASA, where are your files? Where is your information? None of that came out. NASA came out as clean on this as they could believe. They look like they got a shiny new set of clear coat on their rockets. And anybody who's impressed with that needs to get out of this field. See, the problem that we have is we have a media who doesn't want to put pressure on this because they don't want the topic. The problem is NASA knows about that. The government knows about that. Sean Kirkpatrick from the Arrow program, who blatantly said, we've got nothing out of space and we've got nothing in our oceans. He knows that as well. The cover-up is on. They are trying to make this like another Condon report, and they want everything swept back under the rug so the tinfoil hat people like you, like me, and those who have seen things, and those who just want to believe, look like fools in the public once again. They're doing a great job of it. And NASA is playing a fine role in that because they know the public is listening. They know when the public speaks that they're going to say, oh, no, we don't have anything. We've never heard anything about this. But it's out there. The information is out there. But for $100 million, they'll go study it. No, it was a sad day for ufology yesterday. It really was. We could have had so much more, but we got exactly what we expected. We got nothing. And that's the way it's going to be. So for those out there who are hailing that disclosure is right around the corner, and disclosure is coming, 2023 is the year, and Joe Biden is going to be the disclosure president because that's the way it's written. It isn't happening, people. To me, it showed that there is a giant divide between what they want to give us and what we're willing to accept. We saw things going fast to moving slow. A fighter pilot now can't tell the speed of an object, apparently, according to NASA's scientists. No, the Go Fast video allegedly debunked, where it's not going thousands of miles an hour. It is going 40 miles an hour. They did everything to break things down so the skeptics can pour on the pressure that us imbecile ufologists, we blow everything out of proportion. We blow everything out to the stars because we want to believe, and according to them, there's nothing to believe. They made, with that Go Fast video, Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon look like fools. And they accomplished that. They accomplished what they needed. Yes, the subject got back in the mainstream media. That is always a good sign. But you know what? Every now and again, when you get a few crumbs, you got to have some milk with that. And there was no milk to wash those crumbs down. Nothing. We got nothing. We got railroaded, and that's the only way to look at it. There is no positive here. They are trying to kill ufology with this narrative. They don't want people like Grant Cameron or Science Bob or John Yost or Melinda Leslie or Richard Dolan or any of us to exist. We are burdens of a problem. And they got to get rid of us. And the way they could get rid of us is by getting rid of the information. Sure, things will leak over the years. They always have. But they don't want us to know. We're the peons in all of this. We mean nothing. The only thing that we are is a pain in their butts because we won't go away. We'll keep fighting for the truth because experiencers know the truth. Experiencers know that this phenomena is happening. There's enough proof, enough evidence, enough eyewitness testimony, enough videos, enough of everything to prove that this is not a subject that will go away, even though the United States government, the military, and now NASA wants it to go that way. They're going to keep pressing, but if you think that 2023 is going to be a disclosure year, I have a beautiful bridge to sell you in the middle of the Sahara Desert. And I promise you that water will make it 1 year underneath so you can go fishing. It's a time to be frustrated, but it's also a time where you and social media have the power to fight back at NASA and call that conference, whatever it was, the farce that it was. And that's what it was. It was a complete farce. And they need to hear about it from us. That is your Dave 101. Let's get to the news, shall we? If I can ever find the intro to it. There it is. Here we go.
What time is it?
It's time for Shirky Poo's News!
Here's one to be proud of if you're a fellow British Columbian like me. You ever watch on YouTube those big cheese events down in the UK where they roll the wheel of cheese down the hill and everybody goes and chases after it, and whoever gets down to the bottom first actually wins that wheel of cheese? Yeah. Good old BC girl from Nanaimo, Dave's old hometown, actually won this thing. Canadian contestant Delaney Irving, just 19. She was the speedster who won the women's race despite being briefly knocked unconscious. Yeah, you could tell she's got some hockey in her. There's no soccer in that. All right, hundreds of spectators gathered to watch dozens of reckless racers chase around a 7-pound wheel of double Gloucester cheese down the near vertical Cooper's Hill near Gloucester in southwest England. First racer to finish behind the fast rolling cheese got to keep it. The cheese rolling race has been held at Cooper's Hill, about 160 kilometers west of London, since 1826. And the sport of cheese rolling is believed to be much older. The rough and tumble event often comes with safety concerns. Few competitors manage to stay on their feet all the way down the 200-yard hill, and this year several had to be helped limping from the course, but not Delaney. Nope, the good girl from Vancouver Island, she got her cheese. Yes, she did, and she's holding on to it for life. Geez, will probably last longer than her. I love watching these on YouTube. By the way, gentleman from Manchester, Matt Crolla, won the men's race, and he says, I don't think you can train for this event, can you? It's just being an idiot. That's how you win. Love it. Moving on here. Let's continue. We all know a stunning-looking person can stop traffic. In Florida, a stunning-looking turtle caused a multi-car smash-up. According to the Walton County Sheriff's Office, a man stopped his vehicle in the middle of Route 331 on May 16th after seeing the turtle attempting to cross a busy highway. The unidentified man suddenly stopped in the left lane of the highway and got out of his black pickup truck to save the turtle. Meanwhile, several other vehicles really weren't paying attention, including another pickup truck and a transport truck, and they couldn't brake in time, slamming into each other, causing traffic to halt. Yeah, dash cam footage of the crash. Police said that stopping in the middle of the highway to play hero might have not been the best idea in this case. We all can do better to protect the wildlife and natural inhabitants of our great state, the sheriff's office wrote. Residents and visitors alike should marvel at the many species that call Florida home, just preferably not in the middle of a highway. While the driver's heart was in the right place, he could have unintentionally caused major injuries on a major roadway. And police say, we don't advise causing a road obstruction because of a reptilian obstruction. No serious injuries in all of the crashes, which was very lucky. and the turtle survived. Well, when there's a pig on the loose, the Green Bay Police Department is apparently on the job because they love their bacon. The Wisconsin Force got an unusual report earlier in May after hearing about a 300-pound pot-bellied pig named Albert that was on the loose and starting to make trouble in the neighborhood. Yep, Albert saw an opportunity to explore the city when his fence gate was accidentally left open. Officers who stumbled upon Albert believed he looked like he was a little lost. Yeah, Green Bay cops went door to door in an effort to find the pig's owner. Upon questioning Albert where he lived, cops said his snout wasn't pointing him in the right direction. A resident of the neighborhood was able to locate Albert's owner, who used fruit snacks to lure the piggy back home successfully. At least he wasn't going to market, if you know what I mean. Yeah, that little piggy needs to stay home. Sometimes the best thing a mother can do for her children is go to prison. That's what happened to Marian Reyes of Las Vegas. She wished it for herself. She asked police to send her to prison after racking up her 7th DUI. Reyes says she hopes her latest DUI arrest sticks and wants to go to prison for the sake of her children, as it's the best option for her right now. I feel like this time it is different because I'm actually being punished. I was not thinking, Reyes said. I was not thinking of my own family. I could have left my mother childless, could have left my children motherless. Reyes was arrested last October, cops said. She parked her car in the middle of 2 lanes on a busy street, then subsequently hit herself with a 7th DUI charge since 2007. Let's hope she gets the help she needs. And according to a recent study by the Dog Advisory Council, which has named Seattle as the dog poop capital of the United States. Yet the study analyzed Twitter data to seek out U.S. cities where people complained a lot about dog owners who won't scoop the poop. No, Seattle was on that list because in the Emerald City, you know, they are better than everyone. Yes, they are. By the way, San Francisco, a very close second. Pittsburgh took third. And yeah, how about you just carry bags with you? It's just that simple. Carry bags. It's very simple. Clean up after your dogs, will you? We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us. Because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we got room for them too. Good night. It's not a nicotine candy, you weirdo. No, not that at all. It's a throat lozenge called Fisherman's Friend. And when you feel your voice getting a little scratchy, you throw in a little bit of a Fisherman's Friend, and it soothes it right back to normal. You got to do it right at the right time, though. Right at the right time. Yeah. That's what we do. That is what we do. Uh-huh. Yeah. I totally should be, Rob G. Totally should be. So does Random Guy. Like a good steak. Man, I saw my credit card bill. Ooh, I forgot about the exchange. I forgot about the exchange rate. Wow. But that's all right. Totally worth it. Derek Galloway's back after a one-night protest. Good to see you, big bad Derek. Mm-hmm. Let's go here. That'll be next. No, you're not in the penalty box. You are not in the penalty. How is Ricola first? I've never tried Ricola. I have friends of mine who are singers, and they recommended the Fisherman Friends. Why are all Canadians poor besides Drake? Because of Trudeau's taxes. That would be a big one. We're paying nearly $10 a gallon for gas, even though the pipelines run right through our cities. About 80%, 90% of that price is taxes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's convert our liters to gallons. So let's see, 100 liters. So you have a 100-liter tank, and our gas right now is $1.76. Hold on, I'm doing it right now. So gas at my house right now for regular is $1.76. This is gasoline shown. Hold on. Current cost of gasoline. All right. So are you going to help me out here or what? It's not adding up. So your average in the U.S. right now is around $3.85 a gallon. Okay. So perform calculations. So right now, if we can do that one, why won't it let me? It won't let me change the calculation. So that's wrong. All All right, let's see if this will work. No, that's not the financial calculation. All right, this one. Pardon me, I'm paying almost $7, $7 to $8. If I wanted Premier, I'd be around $9 a liter or a gallon. Yeah. That's what we do. Fun times, eh? Gas under $4 a gallon. How you doing, Cold? How you doing? Hey, Ross Dogs. Hold on. Let me change hats here. Just for you, buddy. Just for you. It's that time of the night where we say hello to all of the agents and agencies tuning us on in tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We say thank you. Give us a call sometime. You already know the number because we don't really need to give it to you, and you have easier ways to find it. And remember, some of us can be bought. Some of us can be bought. Yep, there we go. Thank you for the hat, Charlie. No problem, Sovereign Farts. No problem. All right, buddy. I'll take your money that you're going to deny. I'll take it. When do we see the lucky return of No BS News? The anticipation is killing me. Oh, you people are so tough. You people are so tough. Somebody came up to you and said, I'll give you $1 million, pay your mortgage, your kid's college tuition, whatever it may be. If you go off the air, just shut it down. Hell yeah, I am. Nothing against my listeners or anything. None of hope. Nothing against you guys. I'm just saying. Then you start up another channel, you see, under a different name. Or maybe I become Scott Dave. And you rebuild everything. It's all good. Nobody hurt. By the way, Random Guy will be having a pool party this weekend from 5 to 7 p.m. Firefly, what about the 2004 USS Nimitz encounter? They pretty much blew it out of the water. They don't want anything to do with it. That's awesome, Tim. Come on, random guy wants his kids to study political science. Random, your kids are coming back. Hey, Dad, I'm majoring in political science. Hey, Swishy Ishy, how are you? There is no such thing as disclosure, Firefly. You're in an age of confirmation. And if you listened to NASA yesterday, they ain't giving you any secrets. It's a dark day for ufology. Kurt M., do you think Mick West will point out the errors in the NASA hearing? According to him, I don't know. I should bring Mick back on here very soon. I actually like Mick. I think Mick's a nice guy. I do. We may not see eye to eye on the UFO thing, but I think he's a very nice man. When I've talked to him, he's been very pleasant. All right. Let's go there. Let's see what we got here for you. What's happening at Oliphants River? Waffles. Nothing. See what else is out there. Oh, hold on. The camera's moving. I'm looking. There you go. I'll give you the nighttime penguins. Thank you, Maggie. There you go. What are we booking? Are we going back to Vegas? Is that what we need to do? Do we have to go back to Vegas? At least my head could fit in a hat, random guy. Look at all them penguins swimming around, having a joyous time. It's a fun night tonight with Alan. It was a joyous time. Thank you, Derek, for that awesome super chat. Appreciate the love, buddy. Do. Do. That's true, random guy. Whistler's expensive. Tahoe would be nice. I'll talk to Kira about that. A cute little penguin there. We're not in St. Louis. I'd like to be. I'd like to be on the old station there. I've been interviewed by a number of people who broadcast in St. Louis. Well, I've been doing on Sunday nights. I've been doing a quick hit with Sterling on Sundays. He's out of Pittsburgh and broadcast nationwide. That's been kind of fun. Tomorrow night on the show, get your tinfoil hat ready. It's time to ride the woo train. This random guy's favorite guest, our Keith Andrews, is back for the ET Connection. We know Nicole will be listening. Random guy will be rolling his eyes. The rest of you, we're going to have a lot of fun. A lot of fun tomorrow night with our Keith, as we always do on the first Friday of every month. Big thank you tonight to Derek, Maggie, Deb ×2, Susie B, Jeremy, Christine, Jeff, Shade, Catherine, Not of This Earth, Simon, Cat Chaser, and Linda for the amazing super chats. Very much appreciate the love, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow, okay? Take care. Sleep well.
healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.